We've now reached the part of our album where we have refill pages and pocket pages, and they tend to be alternating in this section of the album. So we're basically making refill pages front and back sometimes, but practically in all cases they are now single pages, and then we'll get to our pocket pages a little later in the series. So I want to make a layout that will hold a nice journaling spot. So what I envision for this page is going to be about one of the places we will stop along the way. So I went into my scraps and I looked around to see what I may have to get started on this page. I really don't have a lot of scraps, but I want to use as many scraps as I can in this process because it's a great way to use up the scraps. I'm looking at how big the pieces are. This is not quite large enough, but I still have some ideas on what I could do with that. And I looked at this scrap, and isn't that just the perfect size? And I think this is going to be a launching point for this page. This strip is 2 inches wide and 10 inches tall. It's going to be a great place to begin this layout. I went into my scraps and found this piece of beige. It's not quite 10 inches tall, but I can work with it. I'm going to use the Evergreen Trees Decorative Border Punch. I've been so excited to use this punch. I did a test cut with this, and this punch cuts very close to the edge, so make sure your paper is in up to the back edge of the punch before you actually punch, and then carefully watch lining up the papers as you go. That turned out beautiful. And I have these beautiful trees that I can see using somewhere else in this album. So I'm going to say punch out things like this. I notice that this punch comes very close to the edge. So I'm going to trim it relatively close to the edge here. This looks to be less than 1/8 of an inch from the edge here. But I'm going to trim it a little closer than that. So I'm putting the edge of the tree on the edge of my gray mat to cut. I think it will still be a bit wider on this side than that side, but it won't bother me. This is going to make a beautiful border to go in my journal. A vertical border is not my normal for my journals, but I'm going to try something different this time. Next, I'm going to put journaling spots here. Here are some notes from my journal. I learned that when I buy a new piece of luggage, I should get medium size, not the large. It will be better to carry 2 medium suitcases rather than 1 large. So while I was off camera, I decided to go away from working directly inside of the album and illustrate my pages here, and then adhere the pieces into the album when I'm finished. And the reason I want to do that is so this will lay flat, because I'll get to some pages in here that are not laying flat like this. And so I think it'll be easier to illustrate to you when I have the flat surface what's going on. I found this piece of paper and this one. I think I like the dark green better. I think using the avocado is a little matchy, and I tried to mix it up, and the dark green is closer to the green in this card, and I really like the contrast with that. So I'm going to use this. This dark green already measures 3 3 3/8. So this dark green paper is 3 3/8 inch wide. And there is enough for me to get 2 4-inch cuts. So I'll start with the 4-inch cuts. Scraps are getting used up. Now I have a choice of leaving these at the size that they are, or cutting them down to 3 3/4. So right now, these journaling spots are 4 inches by 3 3/8 of an inch. They're actually almost a square. I think I'm going to keep it that way. It will give me just a little bit more room to write. Hubby's suitcase was oversized. So now we have the basis of our layout. We have our mats, which are 4 inches wide and 3 3/8 inches tall, because that was the size of our scrap. And then we have our journaling spot, which is 3 3/4 inches wide and 3 inches tall. That gives us about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Now I like to write on white cardstock or paper, but some people prefer lines. And there are several ways you can get lines, so I'm going to show you a few. One way is with a journaling template. I like to pencil in the lines from the journaling template onto where I want to write. Then I'll write, and then I will erase the lines. From time to time, Creative Memories will come up with journaling templates like these. Other journaling templates have been like this or that. I love these. This one is from the Summertime Journal template. It came out in 2021, so it's a bit old. There may be others that are in these recipe template size, 12 by 12 sizes. There's the white lined paper, which I will be using in this project. And I recommend as part of this project that you get a pack of this paper, because it will be very handy if you like writing on lined paper. And as you see, it comes as wide ruled or college ruled. And because it's double-sided, you can use both sides. And last but not least are the write-on stickers. They are strips that are 6 inches wide, and then some of the strips are 1/4 of an inch, and some of the strips are 3/8 of an inch, a little bit wider. I don't know if that shows up well or not. These are the wider ones. And that is a very flexible option also. Because the focus of this book we're creating is writing more so than photos, but we will have room and opportunity to include photos in our journal also. The last step for this page before we put it in the album is to see if we want to do any more decorating. And I think the answer for me is yes. I found this scrap. It will more than fit on the page. And I have this tree line border punch. This is an advisor exclusive. If you like this punch, ask your advisor if they can find out if it's still available and purchase one from them. I'm going to cut at 1 1/4 inch from the top of the highest tree. I don't want a tall border, just a nice decoration at the bottom. So this is our basic dry fit layout. I think it's lovely and I'm ready to put it inside of my album. And now we finished our first journal page. I noticed this is a little tall right here, so I'm going to trim it with the scissors. It's the back side of this, comes over, hangs over a little bit. Doesn't really bother me, but I'm going to just use the scissors and cut from the back side and trim this off. Maybe I should trim from the front. There we go. Much better. I thought I had forgotten the cord to charge my tablet. I was in a panic, even though Mike had one. Because that old style isn't made anymore, I couldn't buy a replacement. So I will retire that tablet when I get home. I asked the hotel if they had one in the lost and found, and they did. I later found my cord in my luggage. It is time to simplify my tech. Now, let's get ready to make our next layout. I've chosen a brown color scheme for no particular reason because I had plenty scraps in brown. But I want to talk about my formula because this is so repeatable, it speeds up the process. My layout design for most of the pages are about the same. Border across the top, 3 journal spots, and then something across the bottom. So let's go make something. Because this is my largest piece, I'm going to make 3 journaling spots that will be 4 inches by 3 inches each. I've cut it 4 inches. And then I'll make 3. Actually, I'll make 4. And I'll have an extra. So this is a formula. A 2-inch top border, 3 journaling spots, and I may do something small across the bottom or not. I may make this a little smaller at maybe 1.5 inches and push this up, and then maybe something 1/2 inch down here. This is a very repeatable formula. Now I'll make the journal spots with lined papers. Of course, I need my lines to be going the correct way, and I want 1 for a horizontal oriented journal spots, and then 2 for vertically oriented journal spots. Each one of these mats is 3 inches by 4 inches. So I will cut my journal spots 1/4 of an inch smaller. I'll begin with cutting the horizontal one, which will be at 3 3/4 by 2 3/4. Two and 3/4 by 3 3/4. And now I have a lined mat here. For the other 2, I will cut them 3 3/4 inch tall, and then 2 at 2 3/4 inches wide. So next, I'm going to work on decorating with borders. I'm about to make a border for this page, and I know that my page is 6 3/4 inch wide, so I'm going to cut a 6 3/4 inch wide strip here to put through my punch, and I decided to cut it first, not punch first, because I really wanted it to come out the way it would on the paper. So look at this. I won't be able to see what happens when your paper is too small. To extend this side of my paper so I can see that it matches up to the line on my border punch, so it starts where it's meant to start. I'm using a post-it note, so I know I'm positioning my paper, making sure the paper is up against the back edge here of the punch. So this is what I am thinking right now. We'll have, instead of a top border like I was thinking at first, I decided to punch the luggage punch here at the bottom. This is a good start, but it's not where I want to end up. I think I want to back this. I think that looks better. So there's a lot you can do with this luggage punch. There's actually some stickers, if they're still available out there, that you can put some colors on these pieces of luggage. You can back this with different colors. I'll show you an example. If you put, say, this behind that luggage. I actually really like that. Let's see what I come up with. Now, if you like super fast and simple pages, you could stop right there. You can also go into your stash of stickers and find a sticker to go there. But I pulled out my luggage tag and I punched, and then I decided to fill in the holes of the luggage with tiny scraps from my stash, and now I have this luggage tag that I like. I will trim this down to 6 3/4 inches. Because of the weight, I decided with the border at the bottom, I should put the heavier objects, which are these two, here on the bottom, and put this journaling spot on top. And now I have a place here or here to put an embellishment cluster. Now we have our layout design nearly made, and we're going to put something right here in this spot, and this custom cutting circle, this is the middle sized one. So now we'll use that extra 3x4 piece of paper, and we're going to use the custom cutting system and the red blade to cut what will essentially be a mat that will perfectly coordinate. And remember, all of this was made with a 4" by 12" piece of paper, she says before she successfully cuts. And I keep the pressure on just in case. See, still not there. So we're going to have something there. Next, I'm going to take a piece of white scrap. And this white scrap, if you haven't seen my whale tail video, it's the leftover from that, which is an index sheet. So we're going to use the green blade to cut another circle using the medium size custom cutting circle. So now we have our circle, and since the theme of this page is traveling, lodging, luggage, we'll be staying in a nice city. So I'm going to take a small amount of scrap and cut Now this piece of paper is certainly much wider than I need, but I'm going to go ahead and cut the cityscape. Let's move these things aside for a moment. I'm going to cut the cityscape. Now, I have my cityscape on my circle about where I'd like to see it land. Maybe a little bit over here. So I'm turning my paper upside down to see where I will cut. This gives me a good rough estimation of about where to cut the brown. Roughly there. So we're going to cut it at about 1 3/4. So the top building here, the little tower, is going to be at 1 3/4 of an inch. And now okay. I'm going to adhere my cityscape to my circle. Set by the camera. Okay, and I'm going to trim on the back side. I'm going to trim around the circle. Now don't fret trying to make it perfect. You just want it to be a circle all the way around. Take your time. And now we'll put our circle on our mat. Now I know me, I'm going to want my lines straight. So I'm going to try to get them as straight as possible. So now this is a lovely layout to put in our travel journal for the subject of our hotel or the city we're in. And now we have our layout into our album, and I'm really pleased with it. We have our 1.5-inch border that we put at the bottom. We have 3 by 4 inch mats with journaling spots that are 2 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. We have a third mat that is horizontal, and we have an embellishment here. We can add more, we can add stickers, and we have lined journaling spots. So this is a page intended to talk about the city or the hotel where we'll be staying. But we also now have room over here for even more. And so coming next will be filling these pocket pages. After that, we'll get back to filling more of our refill pages with journaling pages. Thank you for watching. I expected my international calling plan to work, but I was disappointed that it didn't. So I only had hotel Wi-Fi. That meant I could not use Google Maps. Fortunately, everything we wanted was nearby.